Hey everyone, this is Dean Howell and this is the Rising Sun Podcast. You know, after 20 years of service with America's heroes, I've had the chance to meet some pretty awesome people. They're patriots, mothers, fathers, wives, and husbands, and the best example of what it means to be an American. This podcast is all about exploring their joy and pain, success and failure, and telling their stories to the world. The conversations are authentic like the people, and we hope that you'll keep rising like we are. Now let's start the show. The opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the speakers and not of DoD or any of its components.
Take me to the countryside. Gotta get out of these city lights. Drinking my cup, got me feeling right.
So I appreciate you doing this, man. I wanted to have you on, even though you're a fucking Bama fan.
Roll Tide, baby. All right.
We'll get there because I want to talk about that, right? But like when I brain babied this thing, like I was like, man, I gotta have Scott on, man, you know, because you're kind of an interesting motherfucker, like real talk. And so first of all, I appreciate you like flexing with the schedule today.
Easy day, man.
I want to go watch. It's crazy to say, right? Like I want to watch my daughter's boyfriend play soccer.
Go ahead and say future husband. Go ahead. Your future.
I like, hey, it wouldn't bother me.
That's good.
He's good. He's a good dude, man. He's a good kid.
What more could you ask from him, really?
Super athletic. He's half, right? And, you know, just a good kid. He's academically doing well. And also, he's, like I said, he's super athletic. Like, he's taller than me. I ain't scared of his ass. Don't get it twisted, right?
right.
But, you know, but like he's like 6'2" and plays soccer and did well in football too. Like actually football is probably his better sport, right? So, but anyway, so I kind of pulled it to the left so that we could sit down and talk, and so I can still go watch him play soccer because they came up to play, you know, Egrin, over the weekend. They're going to play some games today. They're going to play some games tomorrow. So.
Hey, man, he makes her happy and doesn't look like he's going to get you sent to prison. We'll count that as a win.
Hey.
We'll count that as a win.
Hey, he's a good kid, man. Like, first of all, he takes care of her. He's good to her, man. And then also, like, he, you know, like when they first started dating, he, like, brought flowers to mommy, to my wife and stuff. Yeah, like, so I was like, okay, dude. Like,
being from the South, like, those are important steps. Yeah. Those are important steps. So.
Yeah. And I think the most important thing is that, like, Millie's sisters like him. They're like,
that's telltale.
That's it. That's all I need to know. Because if Hazel was like, man, this dude's a loser, or like he's an asshole, I'd be like, okay, Millie, let's talk, all right? But they like him too, and he's nice to the baby, to Elizabeth, and so anyways,
that's good. Well, hey, look,
all right, dude.
I am not jealous of these daughter problems.
I wouldn't call it a problem, man. But I know what you're saying, right?
Yeah, I appreciate you holding up the daughter side of this.
I got it, man. I got it. It's like I was talking to Aaron, and you know my girls are fucking savages, man. Right? They're savages. Like, and I wouldn't have it any other way, man. Like they go hard. And I'm so proud of them. You know, so
of course.
Anyways, all right, Scott. So that's enough about that, right? So I wanted to talk to you because, first of all, since I've been here, like, you're a cool dude, man. Like, I think, you know, we hit it off real quick. Like, okay, this dude, like, knows what's happening. Like, you know, he's motivated. Like, there's this thing that happens when certain people, when they speak in a room, like, everybody stops and they listen. Mm-hmm. And that is a quality that, you know, a lot of people don't have. It's not disparaging toward other people. It's right. Just like sometimes, like, you know, and when you speak up, and you, like, I got something to say, you're not an asshole about anything. Just people listen, right?
Right.
And I feel like you're kind of one of those guys, right? And so we hit it off pretty quickly. And I was like, all right, dude, like this guy, you know, he's got his shit together. And anyways, so let's start with, because I like to start with kind of like your origin story. Does that make sense? Like,
yeah.
You know, like where I'm from, You know, how did Scott Counselman get to this point, right, in his life?
Man, it goes way back. That's a 40-year, ongoing adventure. But now, born and raised in the South, just like yourself. Sweet home Alabama for me, and then moved down to Florida. So I did. Went to the University of Alabama, so I do get my roll tide. But I appreciate the Go Tigers as well. So I love SEC football. We've spent many a night or 4 a.m. here in Japan watching it live. So there's no chance of folks ruin it for us, and you just can't beat that. You can't beat that at all. But I grew up small town, real small town, like 450 people in my entire school, daycare through 12th grade. I mean, 30 people graduating class. But then, moved on. I love where I'm from. Love it. Just always felt that there was something more. Found that down in Orlando. Moved down there after doing some time at the university, working for Disney. I'd done that off and on. In the summers in high school. So I was already looking for, even during school, looking for ways to, there's more to the world. There's got to be more to the world.
Right.
And I did. Man, my eyes were open. There was so much out there. Not at that time that I didn't realize the Navy was going to peel those things back a little further and show you that you still didn't know anything, right? But, I just, growing up, my grandparents, they raised me. Both my parents passed really young. So, I owe everything that I am as an adult to them and the effort that they put back into, raising my sister and I, raising kids again, when they should have been enjoying retirement.
Right.
So that has a profound effect on who I am and the things I try to be in life. So September 11th, 2001, obviously, the World Trade Center attack. I was actually headed into work at Disney. And back
in Orlando.
Then, Disney World in Orlando. And at that time, that was only like the 3rd or 4th time in history that Disney had officially closed. So I'm going into work and the phones are lighting up. You're in the car. We didn't have screens back then. You only got what's on the FM dial or thrown in the CD player. So phones are lighting up. And they're like, hey, get in here as fast as you can, but it's be ready to work. And we ushered, 75, 80,000 people out of the park under those circumstances. That was nuts. That's crazy. But that kind of stuck with me. I'd always had an interest in the military. Almost went in the Air Force right out of high school. To be honest, I just wanted to fly. I wanted to do jobs that they weren't able or weren't willing to give me at the time. And bro, I tell you, my friend and I, we were so far into that process. We were at the recruiting office, contracts on the desk, pen in hand. And we both just kind of took that look at each other like, man.
I don't know, man.
And that simple things, you grow up, you just, that nod, like, one of those. And we both put our pens down and walked out. Could have been great, but I wouldn't trade what I have now for anything. The Navy's been amazing to me. 20 years. So, but came over to Japan after a tour in the U.S., came over to Japan and did exactly what I was afraid I would do, and I fell in love with it. So just since 2007 to now, 14, 15 years of my life have been involved with Japan and living here. And I mean, I wouldn't trade a year or a day on it for anything. And even now, I'm leaving soon, unfortunately, and we've already talked. I'm looking for the right way to get back.
I know.
So that's it's been a long trip, man. Long trip, but I appreciate the hard times, the challenges, the struggles, and I appreciate those decisions where I wasn't sure and I was able to go to people and to get out. I was big, man. I was big at 10. That was my hardest reenlistment. The hardest decision was at 10 years. If I'm successful and 10 years and one day I'm in. I told myself, you go over, it's downhill from there. And I did it in fashion, and
Yeah.
Everything else.
And now you're still here.
Still here. Yeah. Right. Still here with good folks like you and the group we have here. And, I love this place.
I love it too, man.
Like this is second home.
It's weird, isn't it?
Yep. So I have 9 of those years. 9 of my years in Japan cumulative have been living here.
In Misawa.
Yep. So
holy cow.
This is without doubt second home.
So when you think about Japan, you think about Misawa.
Absolutely. I mean, it's hard for me not to.
Right.
The ties I have, the people I've met, the experiences. I was here when the May 2011 earthquake and tsunami came through. I was living here. We were checking buildings, looking for people to verify families were safe, and then doing beach cleanup.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to talk about feeling small.
So I that's not on my list, but I do want to get into it. So you were here as a pretty young sailor at that point, right?
Yeah.
And so if anybody listening doesn't know, and hopefully they do, but you'd be surprised, right? So March 11th, 2011, so 3/11/11. There was a 9-point-something earthquake, one of the largest earthquakes ever recorded in human history.
Yeah.
That struck off the coast of Sendai, essentially, right? Mm-hmm. Which is pretty damn close to here. And
3-hour drive.
Yeah, right, exactly. And so then the earthquake itself, and then the ensuing tsunami, and then everybody's probably heard about Fukushima, right? So the tsunami affected the nuclear power plant in Fukushima, and then it affected all of Japan. Like my experience was not the same as yours, obviously, because you were here. Like, and when I say here, like here is like you might as well have been at ground zero, and for all intents and purposes, right?
Close to it. Close to it. You do not have to drive very far at all down the coast from where we are in Misawa to where fishing vessels were not in the water but across the road. Towns that will never be on the face of the earth again.
Right.
You don't have to drive very far at all.
No.
To where people's existence was rewritten.
Yeah.
In the most extreme fashion I've ever witnessed in my lifetime. And we go through hurricanes and stuff like that down in the southeast, and those can be horrific as well. We've seen those firsthand, but you see them coming.
Yeah.
And it was like 2:48 p.m. With no warning whatsoever. Regular workday afternoon.
Yeah.
No warning.
Yeah.
And you go from everything's great, I'm doing well, hey, I'm just going to go go to the house, whatever. And then next thing you know, like you realize just how insignificant nature can make you feel.
I remember feeling exactly that way. I was in Atsugi at the time, and I was in the Chiefs mess at the hangar where VFA 102, we used to share it with CAG. Yeah. And it was almost 1,500. And so I remember we were like, it was a bunch of Chiefs, we're hanging out, right? And we were like watching a little bit of TV or whatever. Yeah. And dude, it's not funny, but it's funny, right? So at that point, and that was 2011. So at that point, I had lived in Japan for a total of 7 years. And as crazy as it sounds, I had never felt an earthquake. Maybe I just wasn't like tuned into it. I didn't know what it felt, so my brain or my body never registered it. Yeah. I don't know, right?
And but we don't. 90% of the ones that happen, we don't feel.
Exactly, right? And I remember we were sitting there watching, and initially it was like, boom, 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 boom. And I remember thinking to myself, like, whoa, what just happened? And like everybody's like, ha ha ha, it's just an earthquake. I was like, you guys can fuck yourself. I'm going outside. And I did. And I like crazy Dean standing outside the parking lot by himself. And then
what could go wrong?
Not even like 20 seconds later is when it was like, dude, it felt like the earth was rolling. And I swear to God, the doors to the hangar were like the last day of school, like school's out for summer, like Dazed and Confused style, right?
Yeah.
Like everybody came running out, right? And and it just, the thing was, it just didn't stop.
Nope.
Like, it went on for like 2 or 3 minutes. It just kept going, right?
Could have been an hour the way it felt. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yep.
And so then, like, it finally like stopped, and we went back in the hangar, and I remember watching, like, we had all right, put it on the Japanese channel, and I was watching the tsunami happen in live action, dude.
Yep.
Right. I didn't speak as much Japanese then as I do now, and my house at the time was in Ofuna, which is only about 5 miles from Enoshima. So it's like maybe 5 miles from the coast, and there's a river that runs like up by Enoshima, right?
Sure does.
And or by Ofuna. And I remember watching, I was like, oh my God, like, where is this? Like, where is this happening right now? And I didn't realize that it was Sendai and like everything that's up here. Yeah. And I freaked out, dude. And that day I'd ridden my motorcycle into work, and I was like, I'm out, motherfuckers. Like, I'm going home. And I lived about 45 minutes from the base, and I remember maybe 20 minutes home, everything, like no power. And so, like, thank God I was on my motorcycle, because it was total pandemonium, traffic jam. And I you know, Japan, I'm just like zipping around traffic, whatever, dude. And I got home, you know, mommy and the kids were not home, and so I'm freaking out. I'm like, oh my God, dude, like, where are they? And finally they come home, and but then it was like no power that night, and then it started the rolling blackouts, and yeah, so that was my experience, right? But I can't even imagine, like, there was still snow on the ground up here when it happened, right?
I think we were, you know, typical Misawa. It likes to play tricks on you.
Yeah.
You know, come around March and April. Oh, yeah, change your tires. You're ready to go. Break out the soccer balls. Foot of snow. Like,
right.
You know, just like, what, 2 weeks ago. Exactly. 2 weeks ago. Like, it's 70 degrees one day and it literally 10 and a half inches of snow fall that night. You're like, what? Where do I live?
Right.
But then once you're here, you're like, you just know it. You expect it.
You
love it. Like, I'd be more shocked if it didn't happen.
Right.
No, I mean, it was a sunny afternoon. I had just pulled up to my house.
Yeah.
Just pulled up to the house. I think I got one boot off as the first one happened.
Yeah.
And then I just kind of like, whoa, like, let me,
hey.
what's going on? So I'd like one shoe on, one shoe off. And next thing you know, it starts rolling. So I'm holding on to whatever I can, trying to, you know, typical, give me the TV. Yeah. Don't fall. The kitchen could fall apart, refrigerator fall over, as long as the TV is good, you know, where our priorities were then.
Yeah.
But just, riding that thing out was, and to do it alone, you know, in that momentary sense of the word, there was nobody there. It was just me. Yeah. So you don't really know. I had experienced plenty of earthquakes, but there's nothing like that. I think a lot of people don't realize, you know, you get up to the 4s, 5s, 6s, and even the 7 that gets people's attention. Like, that's if there's a range of normal, you get above 7, and let alone you want to talk about 8, mids, 9. Yeah, that scale might as well be 15, 16. Like, it's not in proportion. And man, it just, I don't wish that kind of experience on anybody, but man, the what it did to me as a person and how it changed my outlook on life, you know, had the same type of profound effect as the first time I went to countries where they were running water's a luxury, you know, growing up where we did. Like, it just lets you know nothing, and in the scheme of this existence, you are not what you wake up believing yourself to be, and it can be gone.
That's huge, man. That's huge. I've never thought about it that way. Like, you know, when you grow up in the States in general, but especially in the South, the idea, you know, of course we have, this is not to say that we don't have these things, right? Because hurricanes in the Southeast and winter blizzards in the Northeast and earthquakes on the West Coast, but it's not to, you know, take away from anything that happened, you know, in San Francisco. You remember that big one when we were kids, right? Yeah. Like, that was terrible. It was awful, you know. But until you experience something like that firsthand, you know, you're just going about your life. I'm waking up. I'm gonna brush my teeth. I'm gonna go to work. I'm gonna do my thing. I'm gonna love my kids. And then when you realize, like, oh shit, like I'm not in control of this.
Not at all. Not
right.
At all.
And then when you realize that, it's like, oh, like I'm not in control of much. So, you know, I should probably like enjoy my life, because not to say that it will ever be over quickly like that, but it's like, holy cow, this thing is so much bigger than us, you know?
Absolutely.
So,
man, I tell you the other really eye-opening thing and that I took for granted a lot was, you know, just in our careers, we do muster and we look for names and we check on where people are. Oh, he's an appointment at this, or he's with the family that, without so much as really a hesitation. Like somebody pops up and answers, you're like, okay, yeah, moving on. Yeah, Smith, got it, cool. He's a medical. Sure he is. Cool. All right, I'll take your word for it.
Yeah.
That list.
Yeah.
Like we went down, and you know, you have these procedures, the emergency contacts and everything, just all the systems start getting activated and the procedures start getting run to ground, and you look up and you're like, all right, I was at NAF. I was where you are now, right?
Yep.
Flying with those guys, and it's not a big unit, and all of a sudden, like, all right, we have 15 people we can't account for. And that's sobering as shit.
And this is back in the day when like you barely got cell phones.
When this happened,
yeah,
you were lucky.
Yeah, service was done.
To get service, right? So it was, here's your name, as safely as possible, go to this person's house. If you can't safely arrive there, come back, like walk, whatever. But we were having to send runners, like pre-phone days. It was crazy. But it only coming out on the backside and getting even more involved in the community, which I was blessed to be involved with already. You know, helping folks rebuild their life, rebuild their home, bring heaters to the folks at the terminal, you know, on base where there's no power. But humanitarian aid aircraft are coming in. You had sailors 2 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the morning, pitch black, you know, bringing food and heat. Like, your priorities just change, man. And you will grow. You will grow, or you will die.
It probably, like, you know, for me, we booked out, right? I'm in a, you know, fixed wing squadron at the time, and so like, you know, regardless of how significant it was, or you know, like there was definitely a nuclear radiation cloud blowing south from Fukushima that 100% came over the Tokyo and like over the Kanto, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like that's a fact.
Yep.
There's no disputing that it happened.
No, we flew around it. Every flight, you know, an hour and 20 minutes to get to Tokyo. It took us 2 hours plus, everything because we made this huge arc to go around that. Yeah, absolutely.
See, right? And so I remember coming to work and they were like, all right, everybody, we're going to shelter in place today. If you've ever been to Atsugi, you've got the shutters that you can close. They're what they are is they're for like typhoons or something, right? Yeah. And so we had closed all the shutters on the hangar. They're like, all right, shelter in place.
You raise your hand and you're like, you guys know when these hangars were built? Like, it's just not comforting,
dude. So I sat in there, like, I mean, everybody probably knows that smoke, right? Like, so like I sat in there until about 9 a.m. and I went and like found one of my buddies down in maintenance control. I was like, hey, dude, how serious is this? It was like, I don't know, man. It was like, I'm going to smoke. Anyway, so we went to smoke. Yeah. But we booked out, right? We went to Guam because even if not so significant that it would affect the human body, it would certainly affect the instrumentation on those aircraft. And so we booked out, right?
Oh, man, we decontaminated so many.
Right.
We took the Hilo squadrons up here.
Yeah.
We brought them up.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
That was, you know, also like one of the most proud time periods in my career because I watched what typically sleepy Misawa and the small team, right? We didn't get a plus up in team.
Yep.
But we sure got a plus up in personnel on the base and aircraft on the base and mission requirements.
Yeah.
You know, decontamination teams in from Hawaii, few hundred Marine. I mean, we had the base, you know, tripled in size population-wise. Man, they made it work on the flight line, fuel, joint teamwork. You just when you look back now, like, man, look at what we were able to make happen to support ourselves and the community and our host nation. And man, you don't come out of that with a stronger bond and appreciation for where you live, you probably shouldn't be over here.
You probably shouldn't be doing this job, right?
Well, in fact, yeah, absolutely. Wherever you live, right? Like that's part of what we do. Yeah,
it's amazing, man. Like, the fact that you were here for that, and again, like, I wrote down some notes. This is the podcast planner. And I wrote down some stuff that I want to talk to you about, and it's not that I forgot, but it's like it was not one of those things that I plan on talking about necessarily. But I'm glad that we did, because I think that a lot of people have forgotten about it, man. A lot of people have forgotten about it, and like tens of thousands Japanese citizens died.
Still missing.
Yeah.
And over 10,000 never accounted for. And, we talk all the time, but they are out in Davy Jones' locker somewhere. That's the only place they'd ever be found, is at the bottom of the ocean somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, man. So, anyways. So, okay, let's move on. You good with that?
Yeah.
All right, dude. So, you went to Bama, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's talk about that.
What you want to talk about?
I mean, let's talk about your college experience, man. Like, I went to Lamar University, which is in Beaumont, Texas.
Mm-hmm.
I could have gone to what used to be Northeast Louisiana. I used to call it Northeast Louisiana NLU back then, but now it's ULM, right? So it's in Monroe, Louisiana.
All right.
I had a full ride there. I was like, And then I could have gone to ULL, what we call ULL, but used to be Southwest Louisiana, the Raging Cajuns, right?
Yep.
But I decided to stay in Beaumont and go to Lamar because I was like, I don't want to leave my friends, like an idiot. And no regrets, by the way, but I could have gone to LSU, but I just was not ambitious enough. I was like, whatever, dude. That's Baton Rouge. I'm going to go with it.
I'll go visit.
Home games. Right? Yeah. I mean, grades were certainly good enough to get in, but no scholarship available there. So, but you went to Bama, right?
I did. Yeah. So I went, like you said, I just always had that. I love where I'm from, but I just wanted to know what else was there.
Mm-hmm.
I applied to a bunch of schools as we take, ACTs, SATs, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I started hearing back from some big schools. I heard back from North Carolina,
nice,
Michigan, Alabama, South. I mean, several big schools finally started, sending me information. Oh, great. Well, my number one is whole family. All my family is, and all my class, of course. Like, if you're from the state, right? Like, you're going to Alabama or Auburn? Which one? Like, let's sit down. When you sit down with your family in Alabama and have the talk, like, it's got nothing to do with growing up and making babies later. It's which Alabama or Auburn? Like, this is a family defining moment. But I think in my over ambition to like get out there, and I had been fortunate enough to meet people from all over the world, all over the U.S. when I worked down for Disney in the summers.
Yeah.
I applied to Michigan as my first choice.
No kidding.
I did. Loved the school. They did have programs I was interested in. So sweet.
Yeah.
Mind you, I'm from Lower Alabama.
Oh yeah.
And no concept of what weather in Ann Arbor is like. So I mean, I got it here in Misawa, but never crossed my mind. I was prepared for everything.
Yeah.
But I also got a full scholarship to Alabama.
Yeah.
And so I didn't hear anything back from my application to Michigan. I accepted the scholarship to Alabama, which I was completely happy with. Ironically enough, I went to Alabama for orientation week in the summer. And when I came back, my acceptance letter from Michigan was in the mail.
Oh, man. Yeah.
My grandparents, however, my grandmother made it very clear that if I didn't have the best outline plan she'd ever seen ready to put on the table, that you're going to Bama. I did, man, and I loved it. I love the campus, the atmosphere. It's Tuscaloosa is a college town, but it's just rich in culture. The university's been there forever. The girls are amazing, beautiful Southern women. But it's, and then you don't even. That's before you even scrape the surface of the sports programs. I mean, Alabama football and just everything, like just what that means when you're from that part of the country. Right. I didn't grow up around, because the Saints were the closest pro football team probably. I I've been to one Saints game live, you know, but that is an atmosphere. Like, I could teach their own, right? You'd be a pretty pro guy and love the Cowboys, love whatever.
It's not the same.
It's not the same. It's not. Those of us who are diehard, like, you're never going to convince us otherwise.
Listen, dude. I mean, look. So Tuscaloosa, I think, reminds me, and I may be wrong, but like you said, it's a college town, so it kind of reminds me of College Station. Like, College Station where A&M is. Like, there's not a lot around College Station, but when you're in College Station, man, like, you're an Aggie. You know what I mean?
Oh,
it's everything's about that. You know what I mean? So
I think that's one of the amazing, unique appeals to a lot of our big schools. I mean, if you're in Auburn, you're War Eagle. You go to Athens, you're a Bulldog.
War damn Eagle, man.
You go to Baton Rouge, and you're within, any distance of that campus.
The difference with Baton Rouge is it's the state capital.
It is. It's a little bigger.
And New Orleans is right down the road. And so there's a lot going on in Baton Rouge. And I would say really in the last 10 years, Baton Rouge became more associated with LSU football than it was like in my early life. You know what I mean? Like, LSU was always good, but not, like the dynasty, like the not dynasty. I mean, let's be real about it.
You're catching up. It's all right. You guys are doing good effort.
God damn it! You know what I'm saying? But
if Saban had stayed,
that fucking guy. Dude, you're touching that is a touchy subject, man. That fucking guy.
I love it. We've watched games together. We watch the teams play each other, and I love it because we're headbutting during the game. And as soon as it's over, it's over.
Yeah.
And that's how I love my fans who are good. My friends who are good. Auburn fans, and like there's people that just go too far. We know that. And do some stupid shit. But
right.
I loved it. I know at 18 years old, you got it all figured out, man.
Yeah.
I got this. Can't tell me nothing. I'm going to go up there and, I told you I came from a school of 400 people. And that was 13 years of school eligible kids there.
Right.
I went to a university with 26,000 people in it.
Yeah.
And
it's a little different.
Put it this way, I crammed 6 years of fun into 2 years of college. Like, I mean, nobody's ever heard me say a bad word about my time in Alabama. But after 2.5 years, I realized that I was having more fun, and it just got to where I had burned myself out so much to where even the classes and the subject fields that I was truly interested in, man, it's just like that was at that point we talk about all the time. Like, if you ever get that point where you just dread putting on the uniform, you should probably take a look at whether you should still be here.
Do something different.
Well, I got to that way in college.
Yep.
And I could either stay there, hate my life, or struggle with whatever I was dealing with at 20 years old.
Yep.
And keep blowing through money. Right. Which at the time wasn't being put on me to make. Or I could go back to something I knew. I left Disney in a great place. One phone call. Absolutely love to have you back. By the way, I'd like to work full time. When can you be here? 3 days. You're hired. Like,
no kidding.
That's what I got from those summers. Was a walk-in full-time job at Disney, which, again, some of the most amazing people I've ever met. Still keep in touch with. Yeah. And then, like I said, it kind of merged into time changed. We went from 90 hours a week. Yeah. We could easily work 90, 100 hours a week at Disney.
No kidding.
Yeah, just so busy. You didn't get paid that much. You're hourly, $6 an hour. Yeah. But when you're getting time and a half, if you can work, if you work 90 hours a week of your life, then you make enough money.
Not imagine you didn't feel like it was like it's work, but like it's a different thing when you enjoy being at work, especially when you're young. It's like, I'm going to work. Okay, cool. Like, this is kind of my life, anyways.
I was outside. Like I said, I worked with great people, and very early on when I went, one of the ladies that worked had been there. She's probably there 10, 12 years already. She told me something that never left my mind. As I would get to those days, you're like, whatever. She's like, never forget, there are people who save their entire life for the chance to take their family to Disney, walk around here and see what you see for free every day. And that stayed with me. So every day that I thought, it's too hard, it's too hot in Orlando, it's 130 degrees on the pavement. I'm like, you stop and you looked around and you saw people taking these sites in for the first time. And
like joyful.
You're like, you know what? I'm good.
I got this.
And I work at a great place. So, and I'll get my $6 an hour and keep going.
And so then at one point, I know we talked about it, so 9/11 was 9/11. You're like, all right, like I got to do something.
So yeah, whether I wanted it to be or not, right? So I worked in the tourist industry, and it became an unplanned catalyst. I'd say a month after that, we couldn't even get 40 hours a week, full timers.
Right. Okay.
Because the park attendance was so low. Security risk was so high. So you do that, and after a few months, whatever at that age and that you have saved is gone. I'll tell you, like I mentioned this at my grandfather's funeral, but like the thing that the final straw for me was when I had to, as a living on my own adult, had to call back to him and ask him for the money to pay my rent.
That's rough.
And that was the hardest phone call, man to man, that I ever had to make in my life. Just asking for it was like $300 for my half of the rent. We're not talking about a new car. But that just ate me because I had become so proud that I was able to finally make them proud, But I made that, and after that, I can't do this anymore. So I actually picked up another job at the mall, working in one of the stores, but just realizing like, hey, this paycheck to paycheck, part-time balance, what I wanted to do. Started thinking, man, that military that I was interested in before, let me do some reading. Let me do some research. Now I'm 20 years old already, 21 by the time I joined. So it's not my first rodeo as far as like, hey, I'm going to look into what you're doing. I had I call them failures, but I had the experiences to back that up. And man, I did some reading. I walked in, and I was probably what I like to imagine is like a recruiter's dream. You walk in and you're like, no family, no kids, no drugs, no arrest, no outstanding warrants.
Come take this practice ASVAB. Oh, hello.
Well, so that almost got me in more than I wanted. But and so he's when can you leave? Whenever you get me my job. I was like, I want to fly.
Okay, so you went in like, I want to fly.
I wanted to fly, and that kind of caught him off guard. My recruiter was a sub guy, but he converted to ensuing.
I mean, they basically fly underwater.
That's it. And so he heard about the aircrew program, and he said, all right, well, I can't promise you, but let me talk to you about nuke.
Because he saw your practice ASVAB. He's like, I got one.
He saw my real ones. And he's like, let me. They even laid out the money. And I've looked back at times in my career and been like,
damn it.
Like when you see the re-up bonus, like 4 years later, I could have gotten what?
I know, man.
But I've been now flying. I got what I wanted. Been flying for 20 years. And man, I love it. I love them green pajamas, man.
Man.
I love them.
So
it'll be hard to hang up if I ever switch over to your lane.
Well, I mean, you just won't get to wear them as often. But I don't know that there's actually some chatter, let's just say, that let's be real about it. That's the best uniform, man. It's fire retardant. It's comfortable, right?
It is if you wash it right.
I mean,
no, you're right.
Over time, it becomes less and less.
It's almost right? Flight suits.
It's almost like FRVs, right? But anyway, so I mean, there's some chatter that like that is an appropriate uniform, man. You want to hear my opinion about this shit, Scott? You want to hear my opinion?
Tell me about it.
I'm gonna tell you my fucking opinion. All right, man. So if let's say you're back home, right, and you go into it's 5:30 or whatever, right, and you walk into a convenience store, you're gonna grab like a coffee or something on your way to work, right, and you see a guy in coveralls. Where's he going?
Well, he better be going one of two places to work or home.
He's going to work. That motherfucker works for a living, right? He either works in a garage or a refinery or somewhere. But that dude works for a living.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
blue collar to the core.
100%, right? And so I've always said this. I've said this, and again, this is why I have a disclaimer at the beginning of my podcast. But I've always said this. Like,
I know it's there. So.
Why is it so against your sensibilities to allow working people that work for a living to wear their work uniform, not some bullshit camo uniform that sailors don't fucking need? Why is it against our sensibilities to allow them to wear their working uniform to work?
Yeah.
As long as you don't look like a dirtbag in it, right?
That's my only hang-up. That would be my only hang-up is if it's dripping with grease and fuel. Like, yeah, come on.
But if I see an aviator or a flyer, if I see a flyer in the convenience store in the morning, I'm like, oh, the dude's like, a pilot or a flyer or something, like in his flight suit, right? Mm-hmm. So, and this isn't to say like, oh, why are you guys better? Because that's what it sounds. But that's not what I'm saying, right?
We got a patch that says it.
No. Yeah, I'm sure you do. But what I'm saying is like, it's the same thing. It's the same thing, right? Like, it's just like we used to have dungarees. And we used to have wash khakis. And that was our working uniform.
Yep.
And then we said, no more for that. But we still have a working uniform, which is our coveralls. And now we have this bullshit uniform, which was very comfortable. And I enjoy wearing it with my cool coyote brown boots. But I ain't downrange, man. It don't make sense, right?
Well, look, don't get too comfortable because you and I both know by the time either one of us just hangs this up, we'll have at least two more that we'll get to.
Yeah.
There'll be two more to try on. You know that.
So we went down the uniform. I did not mean to do that. So, all right. So you want to join the Navy because you want to fly. At the end of the day, right?
Down.
Yeah. Okay.
Which is crazy because one other cousin that joined the Navy that I was really aware of, everybody else, and I'm talking retired chief master sergeants, retired colonels, retired, war aviator, like everybody else was Army and Air Force.
Yeah.
Both sides of the family. Here I'm like,
Navy. I got this.
I don't know. There was just something about the Navy that interested me from even the visits in high school, the recruiters and then the testing. I just held the interest, and I finally just acknowledged it, man. Like, if it's kept my interest over the last 4 to 5 years, especially with the way I've been driving my life, it's got to be something there.
Yeah, for me, man, like I wasn't doing much. Same thing. Like I went to college, had a full ride. I lost my full ride after the first semester.
That's easily doable, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's doable.
I had an A in honors philosophy of knowledge and an F in everything else. And it's basically because honors philosophy of knowledge started at 10 in the morning.
Well, that's a great time.
I mean, right? I was like, holy cow, man. Like, why are y'all starting stuff at 8? That's so early, right? But anyway, so I lost my scholarship after the first semester. So then I started taking on student loans, right?
Yeah.
Which... And my grades came up significantly. I was like, all right, dude, come on, don't quit being an idiot, right? And so like, when I decided to come to the Navy, and we talked about my buddy Matt, which I'll get to that in a second, but like we were homeboys, man. We worked at Papado, which is right,
buddy of mine that was with me at Tinker, first tour, which we talked about. I think Matt and I were actually at the same time too.
Yeah.
So it's funny how we all just come back and connect. But he was from Baytown.
Oh yeah, Baytown, baby.
down just East Texas and Papado. Oh man, look, anything you Etouffee and jambalaya, anything in that range, we were on it.
Dude, let me tell you something. Like Papado was the shit. It was awesome, an awesome place to work out, great work at, great food. But anyways, Matt and I met there, and we got to become great friends with a lot of the people that we knew there. And his sister was in the reserves, and she's a flyer, right? And here's a little thing about Matt, right? Like, he is a very skilled photographer. At the time, he was an amateur photographer, and so like he's like, dude, let's go to the recruiting station. I was like, you serious right now, dude? Like now? You sure? He's like, let's do it. I was like, oh, fuck it. All right, let's go. And so like he went in and he was like, I want to be a PH.
Yeah.
And they're like, You know,
cool story.
Yeah. But same thing. Like I'd never taken the ASVAB. I didn't take it in high school, right? And so I took a practice ASVAB. Matt and I took it at the same time. And like,
if you had, boy,
oh my god,
boy, do they? You talk about you've never seen solicitation till high schoolers, military targeting high schoolers who have good ASVAB scores, man. It's like you come out like I got my car a week ago and it's already got a Navy brochure.
It almost seems unethical, right? Yeah. But I remember BM2 Garcia. He comes out. He's like, "Oh, so what's up, guys?" And I was like, "Hey, man, I'm gonna let you know because my brother was in service. He was he was in the Army, and so I knew his experience. And I was like, hey, dude, I'm just gonna let you know straight up, like I'm colorblind, like a motherfucker, right?" He's like, okay.
Hey, you still had to.
But in his mind, he's like, you're in my office, so let's talk business.
Your middle name was still quota. Still quota.
Exactly, right.
You got you.
So anyway, so Matt ended up signing up as an AT, like a flying AT, which that's what you used to be, right?
Yeah. So that's what Matt and I did the same job.
Right.
So back then, if you came into aircrew to be a flyer, you were still source rated in one type of maintenance.
Almost like a like our special operators used to do, right? Yeah.
Yep. So I was an AT as well. Matt and I would have done pretty much the exact same job.
Yeah.
And you were a career flyer.
Yeah.
It wasn't until end of 2007 and then into 2008 where they changed our rates.
Right.
And they gave everybody a choice.
That's right. I remember that.
You want to fly, then you become one of these
an AW
flavors.
Yeah.
Or if you love what you do, you can stay in AT.
Right.
I know a lot of guys that did that because they came in for the avionics piece. They enjoyed doing it in flight, but that was what they came for.
Yeah.
And a lot of them stayed and have since retired as, senior chiefs, master chiefs.
You know Larry Cutnock.
I do.
Yeah.
So I met Larry the day I checked into he and Jerry Minor. I met them the day I checked into the training squadron.
Yeah.
At Tinker.
Yeah.
They were both up there, and AT1 Cutnock. Yeah.
You know that dude's one of my mentors, right? Like he was a senior chief in 102 when I was a chief, and we don't keep in touch as much as we should anymore. But man, I fucking love that dude. Like he taught me a lot about being a chief. Like he was just a solid dude. And it's funny, right? Like I was talking to Matt because when I got to know Larry, this was like 08-ish, so pretty not very far removed from like joining, And I was talking to Matt. I was like, "Hey, dude, you know a dude named Cutnock?" He's like, "Fuck yeah, I know that guy."
It's because he went to Matt's squadron. Matt had to deal with him in the shop.
So what Matt told me was that they were doing a cable, I guess respool, and like he did some real unsafe shit, and Larry was one of his instructors, and Larry like fucking almost killed him. He was like, "You like." What the fuck are you doing? Type thing, right? Which I can totally picture, like knowing Larry, right?
Yeah. Well, and I have no doubt. I have no doubt. Larry was one of those. He had no middle. Like Larry was funny, chill, cool, or like fire. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He never got mad a little bit, but great dude. In fairness, there are multiple things towards the back end of that aircraft that will kill you. So,
right.
Being as that I was in the same position as Matt, I have no doubt that I probably did the same thing and had somebody on my side of the hallway yelling at me for it. So, yeah, that's what we do.
Yeah.
So it's funny. He was probably in this squadron. You should ask him if he knows Jeff Storm.
Okay.
Probably in the squadron in the shop with the guy I was telling you whose parents and folks live in Baytown, Mont Bellevue.
Jeff Storm?
Storm, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The good thing about this is that we're recording. Yeah. So if I forget... I can always scroll to this moment in the podcast. So
yeah, great people, man.
Okay, man. So we've talked about a lot of shit. At some point, and I understand that there's some things you can't talk about with this, but in general terms, like you did some time with Naval Special Warfare, right?
I did.
Yeah.
I did some work with them. Had the call it opportunity to be selected for an OSA assignment. Left 2 months after the earthquake.
Okay.
In 2011.
Which when it was like those were things like a lot of people were going to do those type of things.
So obviously, if folks aren't familiar, we had so many forces in Iraq and in the Middle East that, say, just for example, you've got these ground service requirements or these ground jobs, but the Army doesn't have enough people to do all of them and still make mission.
So I'm gonna stop you real quick, right? So I always when ISAs.
OSAs or IAs, either one.
IAs. They were IAs initially, and they turned into OSAs, right? I always joked that this is how this played out, right? And I joked back then, but like the more I think about it now, I'm like, this is probably how this shit played out. And I don't mean to make light of the war effort or anything, right? But just like we hang out, like I'm sure that the joint, like Chief Staff of the Army, Chief Staff of the Air Force, the Chief Naval Operations, the Commandant, I'm sure they hang out in D.C.
I'm sure they do.
And can you imagine a place where Chief Staff of the Army is like, man, like I'm putting these soldiers down range, but like all these support positions, like I just don't have enough people. And CNO's like, what's up, man? What you need? Because that's kind of how it felt like it played out, right? And
there could be a lot of truth to that. There could,
good. That's how things happen in this world, right?
Hey,
but
see a need, fill a need, right?
100%. So you end up doing an IA, OSA, right? Yeah.
So I ended up doing an augmentee tour after my initial tour here in Misawa.
Yeah.
And that was another life-changing experience. Got to do some support, reconnaissance and UAV work for numerous special warfare groups while I was there. Got the experience of being outside the wire and traveling with units and working with folks that I otherwise would never in my normal field have the ability to do so.
Right.
But I also had the pleasure of living with the Army. So I was a Navy of one. Yeah. So I had about 350 Army guys.
Yeah.
And you'll like this, man. 350 Army guys inside their own compound, within the compound.
Yeah.
And so I'm arriving, and there's some dude in a different uniform picks me up in a Jeep. I just get off the helo, and he takes me. I'm like, all right, cool. We're in the compound. He's like, nope. We go in. Then we start showing ID. They're checking his flashlights, and we go into another compound. You're like, jeez, there's T-walls, and you can't see anything.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, it comes around this maze of concrete barriers, and it's just chews. Which, these cubicle housing units. Whoa. Like, what did I just walk into?
Yeah.
He turns the corner, and I have no idea. All I know is it's me, and I'm relieving the only other Navy person there.
Right.
Jesse DeGroat. And I'm relieving him. I turn the corner, and there is no less than 20 to 30 Georgia, Kentucky, Alabama flags waving off the porches of these housing units. Because the unit that was primary there was the Army Special Forces Support Unit based out of the Southeast, Kentucky and Alabama.
Right.
So I got there, and
you're like, oh.
like in the middle, you go across the world, middle of nowhere, and here comes a boy from the South.
Yeah.
Going to do whatever he needs to do, and you roll in, and it's almost like there was a piece of home.
Yeah, like, hey guys.
Like the first time I walked up, and I looked at the dude, and he had it. I was like, Roll Tide. He's like, you're damn right, Roll Tide in the middle of Iraq. Hey, but you know what I mean. Like it was like I'm gonna be okay.
Like,
and then I had the food, and then it just
it was bad. Yeah,
it got better.
Yeah,
I got there when they were low on supplies.
Right. So I guess operating in that environment, right? Like. Which they just operate differently than we do, because I've known a lot of guys that either on the teams or operators. I mean, over the years I've known a lot of these guys. Sure. And like, how did that kind of like affect your leadership style? Like after you got that experience, it didn't have to be immediately, because you were still pretty junior at the time, but
it's first class,
right? Yeah, I mean, but like looking back on it, like okay. Like how did that kind of like open your eyes, I guess, to a different way of doing things?
Well, I mean, how could it not? Just that's first time away from Navy. So I'd been deployed
Right.
a couple times with the squadron before, but that's going with us. You know, that's a group of your own peers, your own leadership.
Yep.
You don't really know how these other services conduct their day to day.
Yeah.
And quote unquote direct and take care of their people and organize their daily lives, their missions, until you're dropped in the middle, and you can't stick out. Like you have to get on board because they're your home. Like you're now part of that family. I had some great mentors, and I specifically say mentors that I met while with those guys, and it was my first. I fell in love. I fell in love with knowing that there are still places and there are still environments where, for lack of a better word, the bullshit, the politics, the red tape, the bureaucracy, the corporate influence that we see every day in our services. Because you don't have time for it.
Yeah, it's all business.
Yeah, if you wasting time on dealing with all that stuff, and I'm not talking about complete disregard for good order and discipline, but people die.
I get it.
People are dying while you're looking for scissors to cut some red tape. So I learned how to function more in that type of environment where it was quick fire react, adapt on the fly, especially when you start talking about special warfare involvement. Like those guys have zero time, for you to figure it out. Like by the time you're there, you better just have it figured out.
Fucking go, dude.
Time to go.
Yeah.
And I learned, one of the biggest things I learned is that like perfection is not what you think it is. Like perfection is mission completion, right? Because the best laid plan you will adapt and come out of at some point, like because you can't control all the human factors, the life influences. So get that out of get that structured like perfected plan. Like if we don't box A, B, C, D, E in that order, we failed. No, if the mission is to fill 5 boxes, D, B, A,
how do we fill them?
Yeah, like you fill them. It doesn't matter what order. It doesn't matter. Like you do it the best way you can. But that adaptability was huge. And that's why a lot of the things nowadays, like change, flex, and schedules, podcast. They don't. I don't. It's easy day. Easy day. Because once you learn that, I know Mark would tell you the same thing. It's like you just don't get.
I think that's why like the special warfare and specifically the naval special warfare brand of leadership, like post-career veterans, whether you're talking about Jocko or David Gaga, like that brand of leadership, which is exactly what you're talking about. Like, okay, what are the objectives? How do you fulfill those objectives? How do you like get people to invest in those things? This very kind of like boom, 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 right? Like that brand of leadership it's kind of like all the rage kind of thing, right? Because it's so fucking effective, right? Like you want to build something, you want to make something like go forward, and you don't want to like waste time. Like that is the brand of leadership,
effective and efficient.
Yeah,
that's when you put those two things together, and you can that's dangerous. Woo.
Yeah,
in the most successful way of using the term. That is the best type of danger.
We throw those words around so much, though, right? Like effective and efficient. But think about that, though. Like legit, if you can build an organization or a movement or a thing that is both effective, meaning it meets all the requirements that you have laid out for it to meet, so now it's effective, and it's efficient, meaning it meets those requirements in with the least available resistance, right?
Yeah,
you fucking got something.
And so it is a talent and to a degree a talent. Just like you mentioned before, the ability to just earn a place, or develop a skill set that allows you to have a place to when you need to speak. People you kind of understand like, oh, okay. It's not just because you want to hear yourself,
right?
And that was a hard thing for me to learn because when I came in, like, oh, you promoted, like, cool, all right, well, listen to me. Well, if you don't listen, I'll just yell louder, and you're like, well, that doesn't really work either. It does at the time.
Nope. Yeah.
But you pay for it later.
Yeah. But it's not effective or efficient.
Right. And these guys, they helped me with that. And then you don't. It's just when you need to get it done. Yeah. You and the things you say are towards getting it done.
Yeah.
So
I love it, dude.
Yeah, man.
So, so you do a little bit of that. So I think I want to talk to you about, because this thing is called the Rising Sun.
Yeah.
By the way, I got some stickers, man. I did not make these, by the way.
I could tell.
I know they're great.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, they're fantastic. There's this lady on base that does like crafty. It's like the Crafty Girl or something like that. And Audrey actually brought these over. And so, anyways, make sure you take a few before you go.
I appreciate it.
But so you do all that, and we call this thing the Rising Sun, right? I mean, here both of us are with City Lokes.
Yep.
Let's look at the camera. You ready? City Lokes, I told you, let's do a deal, man. Look at this. Like, he told me about it. Now I'm promoting it. Like, what the fuck, man? Anyways, but we both love this country.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah, so I could talk for days about it, right? But it's usually kind of the same sentiment. But for you, it's Japan, but it's pretty specifically Misawa and like the Tohoku region, right? So like, tell me what you love about Japan.
Man, yeah, you're right. I do, and I recognize it's not perfect. Japan's not perfect,
right?
Neither is the U.S. Neither no country is. I don't believe. But being over here, and I tell people all the time, anybody's willing to listen. I said that I love my country, and I love what I'm fighting for, and the ideals and the freedoms that we stand for.
Yep.
But the thing I miss the most, if I could bring the people from my life that I don't get to see by living here, if I could bring them to Japan, I'd be good.
Yeah.
I'd be golden forever.
Yeah.
But yeah, most of my years up here in Tohoku, and then I did do 3.5 4 years in Atsugi.
That's all right. You were in Atsugi.
Yeah, I actually lived not far from Ofuna. I lived down just outside of Fujisawa. So we were 3 blocks from the ocean.
That's my place, man.
I loved it. We did love it. I couldn't afford to live there.
Yeah. Chigasaki, man. Chigasaki. That's where I want to end up.
Dude, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
They love that area.
Yeah.
Man, there's just an appreciation, and I think maybe one of the stark differences for me. There's a lot of goods and bads overall. Obviously, for the most part, it's a safer country.
Yeah.
Like, I got no problem with I love guns. I love going and shooting. And if you want to have them, if you're an American, you should be able to do what you want.
Right.
But over here, it's just a different culture.
You don't feel like you need them.
Yeah, not for any of those type of negative reasons.
Right.
Not at all. So the safety of being here, the fact that my son can walk to school.
100%.
And if we were down in Kanto, I could put him on the train, and we're talking Tokyo, a metro of 30 plus million people, but I could put my son on the train as a first grader.
Be fine.
And once he learned where to go, that'd be the only concern. Does he know where? Once he knows it, I'm not worried about it.
Right.
And you can't. Even in some of the best areas, you can't say that back home. But man, the culture, the different ideals, the way that they just look at things completely different, is eye opening. I love being able to have both perspectives.
Yeah.
Group consciousness.
Right.
And I tell you, like not to go too far into ideals or beliefs, but
no, it's the social. You call it group consciousness. I call it social responsibility. Right.
Both, yeah. I mean, and they're tied together in the same bow for sure. I've always felt, especially over the last 10 years or so, we tend to look to glorify the individual more back home. How can you be an individual? Yeah. And it doesn't mean that it's wrong that you may be a first or a unique or a new or what. It doesn't make it wrong, but that's where we tend to derive the glory from, like, and heap the praise.
Yeah.
Where here, like, you want to see the most praise, have the team succeed, have the company.
It's true. It's true. Dude, I've said this multiple times because we are 100% aligned on that. And I think you'll agree with this too, is that, like, that's a beautiful thing about Japan, but it's also one of the detractors.
It is.
In that, like, the individual, like, there's a saying in Japan, like, the nail that sticks out gets hammered down.
Absolutely.
Right? And that is it's a fucking thing, right? Like,
There should be a balance.
You can be great, but not too great.
Yeah.
Because if you're too great, it's going to offend.
Or be great in the way we want you to be great.
Right.
In the way we tell you is okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And so there's if there was some in between place that would be perfect, right? Like,
ideal.
But it's kind of like this balancing act. It's like, like you achieve great things when you put emphasis on the individual rarely, but those great things are super important to society.
Right.
You can still achieve great things, but not on as frequent a basis when you put such emphasis on the society at large, right?
Yeah.
And but I agree with you, like that is one of the things that makes it so great to live in Japan, is that everybody is, socially aware and responsible, or, like you said, this kind of like group consciousness, right? So,
yes, we talk about, like I said, it's not perfect. And I think it has gotten better as we continue moving through the years. And, again, we're talking about a country that's 8 times, 10 times older than ours.
Yeah.
And is made up of 97% pure Japanese nationality people. So very just different existences.
Right.
But they are modernizing, like we both talk about, team half.
Yeah.
Like with our kids, right?
Yeah.
And we love it. And now over the last, just since I've been here, so you say the last 15 years, there's been a huge change in the way mixed, Japanese children or Japanese or people, personas, social figures are viewed, and it's moving to be more inclusive. It's just going to take a longer time. You're just not going to be able to force it here. And I think it's going to get to a great place. It may take 40 years.
I think that because of the culture, I think the culture will be deliberate because everything in Japan is deliberate.
Yep.
Like, it doesn't necessarily mean it's slow, but it is deliberate.
Very much so.
You know what I mean? Like, we are going to assess the way forward. We're going to put controls in place to allow for this thing to happen. But we're not going to just let it get out of control, man. Like,
oh no. It will never be allowed to.
The culture does not allow, like, if things get out of control, it's like, oh.
It's 2022, and Japan just lowered the legal adult age from 20 to 18. So now you can graduate high school. And up until this year, you still weren't viewed as an adult for 2 more years.
Right. Yeah.
Little things, but I don't
but
know.
are 18-year-olds really adults? I've got one.
I just told you my story.
I've got one.
In their heads. In our heads we are.
Sheesh. No, but I agree with you, man. And then not to mention the food.
Oh man.
And it's hard to recreate it because, this country is the size of California, essentially, with a lot more people. But still, the food is always fresh, and the people are always friendly.
The convenience stores are always clean.
Oh my God. The public restrooms are always clean.
I tell you, it's life's little pleasures. Like, people, until you get out and go into other countries, like little things like that, like in the States, there's just not a lot of places, in my experience, where I think it's getting better, obviously, but you're driving on the highway and you're like, oh, the first convenience store I'm finding, like, I'm going to stop there because I want to use the restroom or whatever, or you're excited because the rest area is coming up. Like, all right, you go in there, I'm going to stand and watch.
There's some nice ones in Mississippi. Like, real talk, there's some good ones in Mississippi.
It's getting better.
Yeah.
It is. You got these, we're finally getting, like, your Buc-ee's, your Wawa's, your your big ones are finally starting to raise the bar a little bit. And it's going to continue. But, it's been like that forever here. Like,
let me tell you something, man. So we talked a little bit about this thing that Matt and I are doing, and I'm not ready to put it in the universe. He did. So, Matt, I know you did a podcast and you put it in the universe, man.
Spoken.
It is spoken into existence, but I'm not going to yet because I just want to make sure that we're ready to. But you and I talked about it offline. And imagine if those millions, and literally it's millions of veterans that feel the same way, that want to walk down the street in their hometown that used to not have grass growing in the fucking cracks of the sidewalk, right? Mm-hmm. And that when they were growing up, when they were growing up, they had a community that took care of each other. And when a kid walked to school, like the community made sure that kid got to school and back, right? That's what we're talking about, right? What we're talking about is that, like, we should have a country, a community that wants to reinvest in itself and wants to take care of itself and wants to make sure that it's a good place to live for our kids, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it's a terrible place, but it's a pretty fucked up place right now.
It can be, yeah. Some places.
I'm not embarrassed to say that, right? Uh-huh. And so, who's going to change that? I'll tell you who's going to change that. Who's going to change that is people like us.
Yeah.
You know, and we're going to grow that network, dude. We're going to grow that network of people that are like, it's time to make this what it should be and what it used to be, right?
Yeah, what it can be.
I like that. Yeah, what it can be, right? Yeah. That's all inclusive, that wants everybody in the game, that understands that. And I think that's the thing about the military, the Navy is my experience, but the military in general is that, like, what we have is what society in a lot of ways should be, in a sense that we respect each other and we take care of each other, right? And like, I think that our society could learn a lot from us, like not us on active duty, but also us that have had this military experience and go into the civilian sector and are veterans. Like, stop being in your little fucking hole and like, I served, and being embarrassed. Oh, thank you for your service. Like, oh, thank you. You know, no, fuck that. Like, be proud of it. Yeah. And like, hey, I had an experience and I can teach you something. Like, here, you 10 people come with me. I'm going to show you how we do business, right? Well, maybe you didn't serve, but trust me, like, this is a better way of doing fucking things, right? Yeah. So,
I like the accountability piece as well. Looking at that, like, you know, all the inclusion, all the training and stuff that we do, there's always going to be bad apples. Like, you're never going to grab every, grain of rice when you scoop up, like, so to speak. But the thing I love, and for those folks who are doing it right, where stuff like this means something to you, you've got a community and a culture that when you do hear from or see some from the bad apple or the folks who want to try to tear it down, like, it's bam, it's addressed, it's handled in the community. Right. Instead of letting the bad apple seep poison into the community is suffocating the bad apple and putting it back where it goes.
So instead of the bad apple poisoning the community.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's just that mentality. I'm excited for it. I can't wait to see the project. You know, right now it's in toddler clothes. You know, I can't wait till it gets some shoes.
Barely. It's barefoot. It's barefoot, like trying to learn how to walk, but it's gonna be a thing. And we already talked. Like, I'm gonna be happy to have you on board with it, dude. It's gonna be pretty fucking incredible.
Looking forward to it, man.
All right, dude. So I know, but to tell the audience, kind of like, what's next for you, man?
Oh, what's next? Well, I'm trying to stay here. Trying to stay here like you. There's a lot of us that love this place and love the fact that we are able to live here and serve. Right. But they're called orders for a reason.
I know, man.
So, I got the Navy has politely directed me to relocate. So I'll be headed back to Pensacola in a few months, on to the next chapter. But it should be an exciting, rewarding tour. Yeah. And then, like we've talked about, looking to kind of change things up with the career field maybe, and see what opportunities. I'm excited for whatever opportunities come. Regardless, I still wake up. I still love putting on the uniform. I still love working with sailors and the folks associated with our organization. And as long as I'm still doing that, man, I'm in it to win it, man. Yeah.
No, I know, man. So I'll just put it out there, right? Like Audrey said it, and I've heard her say it many times. I had her on just recently released an episode with her. So you got to speak it into existence.
That's it.
And so I'm gonna speak it into existence for you. You will be a command senior chief and a command master chief someday. because like our Navy needs leaders like you, dude. And I don't mind saying this in a a very public forum. I don't care, dude. Like, you're. And it's not to say that you're going to do it forever to 30 or 34 or be the McPine. It don't fucking matter, right? Like
easy.
You know what I'm saying? Like, but our Navy needs leaders like you that are experienced and motivated and charismatic and just true blue, like motivated, badass Americans, right? Like we need more of that. And quite frankly, I think that our American society does too. I
appreciate it.
So
I appreciate it, man. Yeah, like I said, I love it. Until the day they tell me I got to get out.
Yeah.
Or I wake up and just realize that
it's time to go.
Yeah. So I'm not there yet.
Love it.
Let's keep it going, baby.
Right on, dude. All right, man. Scott, I fucking love you, man. I think you know that. I'm happy to have you on this podcast. Thank you for doing it.
Yeah, of course.
It's a little bit of a leap of faith to sit like across the table and like, with headphones on, like kind of bare your soul. But I appreciate you doing it, man. And like I said, I wish you the best in the future. I know we'll stay in touch. It's not like you're gone yet, but you will be soon. I'm gonna fucking miss you, and I don't know. I'm proud of you, man. But thank you for doing this.
I appreciate it, man. Yeah, we'll stay in touch, and hopefully maybe look forward to seeing this continue to grow. We'll do it again from other sides of the world.
100%, man. All right,
Definitely.
good.
Yeah, man.
All right, brother. Later.
Later.
Yep.